Welcome to We Need Wrestling, everybody. Back after an off week, gracing the airwaves, showing up on your feed. We're back. I'm DJ, and I'm here with
Michelle.
not Brett.
Did you say not Brett? Because I'm not Brett.
I was saying not Brett, but then you said your name, which blew the bit. And then
Whoops.
I got thrown off. But yes, Michelle is here, my co-host in life.
Such a dork.
The co-host of Wings on Wings, my PIC, my lovely wife, has agreed to jump in because Brett is still recovering. He's fine. He is just still in, I don't want to say bedridden. That sounds worse than it is. He's in recovery. He's, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but anyway. Recovery, yes.
He's fine.
I want to say lamenting at home, but that's not the right word.
Resting,
sure. That's not the word either. But anyway, he's fine. He'll be back, hopefully next week, unless he's a coward. But Michelle's here to talk wrestling.
And we're also recovering from COVID.
Yes, right. I guess I should explain that.
Yeah, because we both sound like nasally garbage, so
right.
You do need to tell people.
So last week we missed because the end of October, the beginning of November was just an avalanche of issues.
Destruction.
For everyone. Wings on Wings has been on a very temporary hiatus due to personal matters and health, and then Michelle and I both got I got COVID and I gave it to Michelle.
Wrestling gave me COVID.
Yes, the wrestling gave Michelle COVID, which makes her incredibly happy.
Yeah, I'm super angry about it.
And so while I'm feeling much better, I'm past my 10 days, so I'm all free and clear. Sadly, Michelle got it not necessarily worse, but longer than I have.
I
Similar
still feel
symptoms,
like garbage.
yes, but it's not going away for you as quickly as it did for me.
No.
Still gracious enough to sit across the table and watch wrestling with me, for one.
Yes.
And then decide that she was willing to discuss wrestling for the world to hear. So I guess let's start the show like I normally do with this question: how are you, pal?
That's weird that you called me pal. It's weird to do a podcast with just the two of us.
Yeah, we've never done this.
No, and it's a little bizarre.
Right. Bizarre.
I'm
bizarre.
I'm good way. Other than the fact that I had to watch wrestling for 2 days in a row and wrestling gave me COVID.
That's true.
So this is my worst wrestling month in history.
Okay. Yeah. You haven't taken it too bad to wrestling though. You haven't taken wrestling too bad to task over this. You watched 2 hours of wrestling with me last night.
It's a lot.
And you watched probably 40 minutes of wrestling tonight.
Felt like 3 hours.
Okay. It wasn't. Thankfully we didn't watch all of the show.
Yeah.
Although we could have. By the way, I'm drinking a lovely LaCroix Beach Plum.
There's
delicious.
Sand in it.
There's not sand in it. It's just delicious.
What makes it beach plum?
I think it's because it's, I don't know.
Is a beach plum a thing?
No, that's a very good question. Is it, I don't know. Is it peach and plum? Or it's just plum on a beach?
Well, why would it be? Are you guessing it's peach just because of beach rides?
Yeah, yes I am. It's a rip-off Capri Sun, so I think they're just like, what's a good radical word we could put in front of plum?
I don't think put sand in it.
I don't think so. It's not gritty at all.
Are you sure?
Positive, yes. So let's talk wrestling. Let's talk the week. Let's get down to it. I promised I will not keep you for 2 hours, so we got to get rolling here. So we're going to talk AEW Dynamite. We also have the special feature that we just got done watching, which I'm not going to announce until we're ready to talk about it.
Okay.
But everyone's going to be super excited about it. I hope, I pray. I'm still super excited about it, and we just got done watching it.
Okay.
So some things I wanted to bring up. So if Brett was here, we'd be talking Rumble on 44th Street, the New Japan show. Big matches for Eddie Kingston. I'll just say both those shows. You didn't watch any of that. Both those shows are really good. The night before, just random, unannounced stuff. Was a ton of fun. If you ever wanted to watch Amazing Red, Homicide, Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley, Okada, and Yo team up against Team Filthy and the Bullet Club, that's the show for you. Great stuff. Eddie Kingston and Okada teamed up on the second night. Really great shows. Watched them on Fight. They were a lot of fun. That's all I'm going to say. Michelle didn't watch those. I'm not going to talk to Michelle about Minoru Suzuki versus Clark Connors with special guest Ken Shamrock. Any of these words make sense to you?
Is Clark Connors a Japanese person?
No. He's Australian.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but he wrestles in New Japan.
Oh.
Yeah. Or Hot Sauce Tracy Williams versus Minoru Suzuki. No? Okay. So but we're gonna talk some discourse. So Michelle listens to me talk wrestling all the time, much to her chagrin.
And I get COVID from it.
She knows my love of it. Getting COVID allegedly from an LVAC show is not going to get you any closer to going to one of those shows. Not that they were close to begin with. I think as much as you loathe wrestling, I think you would loathe the crowd at live wrestling more. So while I think you might understand wrestling as a sporting event live a little better, I think you'd have a really hard time being surrounded by, as Todd calls them, attention deficit criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I want to talk quickly about, there's been some Twitter discourse, and everybody's covering it. Pod Van Dam covered it because Ed was in the thick of it. Shock to everyone. But there was some people going on Twitter this week talking about who can and can't judge professional wrestling. And I thought this was a perfect topic for you because, one, you don't like professional wrestling.
Nope.
You're probably the judgiest about professional wrestling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Judging it right now.
So, there was I'm not going to name any names. That's not the important thing. The message is the more important thing. And the message was somebody had basically said the two things. And one of them is sort of always circulating in wrestling discourse, if you will, is if you've never wrestled, then you can't say what's safe or unsafe or what's good and not good. So unless you've trained and wrestled, you don't have a place in judging professional wrestling because you don't know what it's like to be in the ring.
Okay.
And that this is a discourse that comes up all the time, and I think it's complete and utter bullshit.
I mean, if we're holding every critic to the standard of having done it, then most film critics can't be film critics. Most art critics can't be art critics. Most music critics can't be music critics.
Right.
And so, like, I mean, who says?
Right, and I think the thing is like I think it comes from a place, and the other side, the other continuation of this is sort of you can judge wrestling, you can critique wrestling, but it's not fair to say that a certain wrestler is bad, or this person sucks, or this thing was bad. It's just not for you, which is an argument that happens to everyone.
Right.
Movie people say this all the time. Well, it's not a bad movie. You just didn't like it. You know, that sort of stuff. And that's been sort of the discourse. And like,
but that's just the nature of opinions.
Right. And, you know, opinions, like the added opinions, are like assholes. Everyone has one and they all stink. But like, it becomes this like just full of vitriol and snowballs like everything else on the internet, where people like, and, you can't talk about wrestling. You can't say that guy sucks, and wrestlers get involved. And I just think, I'm not a professional chef, but if you make me a shitty sandwich, I can tell the difference. It doesn't quite compute. I've been watching wrestling long enough that I know what works and what doesn't. I've trained a little. I never was a wrestler, but I've watched enough. I understand enough of it. I think anyway, that I can sort of tell what works and what doesn't. And I'm not safety police. I don't give a shit about that. That's something we talk about all the time in the show. Was this unsafe? Was stuff unsafe? Whatever. That's not my job. The people in the ring can figure out what's safe and what's not. People get hurt. But if they work out a certain spot or a bump in the match, they've worked it out. They know what they're doing. They know what they're putting on the line.
Right.
But the discourse of, well, if you haven't done it, you can't judge it, is just absolute nonsense to me.
It's just a stupid thing because, like, your judgment or your critique is always going to be your opinion. And, like, things are subjective.
Right.
If you don't like somebody's opinion, just don't listen to it.
Right. And the other side of it was, and this was one of the main things that the guy who was getting into it with Ed from Pod Van Dam, was sort of like, don't talk shitty about a performer, a wrestler, or whatever, because they will have friends that you may like, and they may not want to deal with you. They may, like the guy posted a thing, was like, I had a friend who was starting a podcast and he was being really shitty and, critical about a person, saying they suck and this and that. He's like, and here's the DM I sent them saying, like, you don't know who their friends are. You don't know how this is going to affect your future if you try to get an interview with somebody and they look back and say, oh, well, you were mean to my friend. I'm not, you may like me, but I'm not going to let you have this interview because you were shitty to somebody else. And I guess that's a valid point. But to me, and like Ed sort of was like, so we're all just supposed to be like happy-go-lucky, just la 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 for the hell of it, just so we don't offend anyone? So nobody gets mad that we said their match sucked? And I think, I side more with Ed. But I think the bigger sort of point of that is, and like, Brett and I on the show talk about it all the time. I hate Matt Taven. I think Sean Spears shouldn't be allowed in a wrestling ring. You don't know those names. That's fine. Thankfully, you don't know those names. And like, they won't hear this or whatever. They get mad at me. I don't at people on Twitter unless I'm praising them, because I'm not. Also, I'm not,
because you're not trying to make people feel
right.
bad.
I'm not purposely going like, at Matt Taven, you're the most boring wrestler I ever saw. Like, I just get Taven off my TV. If he vanity searches, that's on him. That's not on me. That if he searches his last name, I've had that happen. I've had people search their names with like asterisks, like versions of their last name with asterisks in it to come at me, Ethan Van Sciver. But like, so I'm not purposely coming in your face saying, you fucking suck. But I'm saying, I don't like this guy, I let the internet know. And my process on it, where it sort of comes from, is like, we do a podcast, Brett and I do a wrestling podcast, we always say all the time that like, and you can sort of attest to this, is like, we'd be doing this anyway. Brett and I would be sitting somewhere on the couch, watching wrestling, talking about wrestling, discussing what's going on anyway.
Yep.
Right. And we do it off mic also.
Much to my chagrin.
Right. So like, and when we first started this show, I think maybe it was Joe, the godfather of Super Name Network, Joe Sposto, or it might have been our friend Jenna, or both, that they'd sort of said like, we're agenda free, right? We're not, and that's sort of the way I'm looking at it. Like, I'm not, we get the listeners we get. I'm very happy with them. I love the community that we've grown and the friends that we've made. But I'm not looking to get famous. It's not my goal, right? And we don't do an interview show. If the opportunity ever arose, I would love to interview wrestlers and talk, some stuff. But like, I think a lot of people get mixed in that because they are trying to get famous. They are trying to get noticed, right? And there's a lot of scum suckers that consider themselves wrestling journalists out there, and a lot of liars that do that and sort of have made names for themselves, and they have their fucking check mark that they may or not end up being paying for in a couple months. And like, that's fine. And I think a lot of people want to be that. They want to be the person that has a relationship with wrestlers on some sort of personal level and try and get famous off of wrestling for doing a certain thing. And that's fine. If that's your goal, that's your thing. Then I think you need to tailor what you say, so, because that'll open more doors for you, right? Like, that's, you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. But, I'll speak for Brett, even though he's not here. Like, our goal was never like, let's get press passes and go to fucking WrestleMania. Like, our goal is we're going to talk about wrestling like we always talk about wrestling. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. We're not,
Right.
We do this because we have fun doing it. And there was no other agenda, there was no other purpose. We weren't like, let's, and no faulting the people who do, and there's plenty of podcasts that get more listeners and, more interaction and all that stuff and do get some benefits. But that's never been our goal. Our goal was to be the friends that we are talking about wrestling. And so when I see people come out that say this shit like, oh, if you haven't done it, don't make fun of it, or don't critique it in a negative way. It's like, no, I've absorbed enough wrestling, I've consumed enough wrestling in my life that I can watch something and tell that it's good or bad. I've watched a bunch of movies. I can tell if they're good or bad. I've read a lot of books. I can tell if a book is good or bad. I can tell if art is good or bad. It's all subjective.
It's subjective, right? It's your opinion.
Right. And that's the thing. And I'm not saying my opinion should be anyone else's either. There's plenty of people out there that like wrestlers that I absolutely loathe.
Right.
You know, there's some people, and there's a lot of wrestlers that I loathe that people actually love and adore. But it's my opinion, and you know,
right. And you're okay with people having a different opinion.
Right. If I piss off a wrestler, I piss off a wrestler. I'm sorry. You know, I'm not coming at you in your face. I guess people can argue that putting it online and doing a podcast or tweeting or whatever, and I'm not that negative of a tweeter. You know, it's, you know, I like to turn some screws every now and then, and we just have a conversation. It's just this interesting thing, and it's sort of outrageous to me that people will get that worked up saying, "Oh, don't, you haven't done it. Don't critique it." It's like, that's super fucking weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me like, you know, that's like saying, well, you're not allowed to have an opinion about this, like, music because you're not a musician.
Right.
But, like, I know what I like and I don't like. It's a matter of personal taste.
Right.
I'm going to have an opinion. I'm not saying anybody else needs to have my opinion.
Right.
I think that all wrestling is just trash. And I still love you even though you like it. And
Aww.
I still love you even though wrestling gave me COVID.
I like you too.
Hey.
And there's obviously there's other sides of it. Obviously there's toxic sides of it. You know, I'm not the kind of person, and I don't do this. I'm not like a fuck you, go die, you know, like that kind of guy.
Right, exactly. Or like I will quit the business immediately.
Right. I'll jokingly say get out of the ring. You know, I just said Shawn Spears doesn't belong in a wrestling ring. It's tongue in cheek to an extent. People like him. I don't understand why. That's fine.
But you don't have to.
Right.
Other people are allowed to like it, and you don't have to understand it.
Right. I like a lot of wrestlers that people won't like too.
I don't understand why anybody likes wrestling.
Exactly.
But
you're here to talk about it.
Right,
so,
but I'm not going to tell you that you're a small-minded idiot just because you like wrestling.
There you go. Twitter people be damned. Michelle doesn't like wrestling and has watched maybe a handful or less of actual wrestling. This is the most wrestling
you've probably watched less than 7 hours of wrestling.
Right. This is the most wrestling you've ever watched in a week's time.
Yes.
Is this week. So I say that qualifies you to talk about it and bury everybody.
Yeah, and I'm going to critique the shit out of it right now. And I would rather die than train to be a wrestler.
Okay. So let's talk AEW Dynamite.
Let's.
There's a point in AEW Dynamite that we're going to go on a bit of a sidebar. I want your opinion on another weeks past, but still hot button issue wrestling topic. So we'll get there when we get there.
Okay.
But let's run through Dynamite a different way than Brett and I do it, because I'm not gonna ask you what you thought about how this guy throws a lariat or what the three-handled family credenza looked in that match.
The what?
The moss-covered three-handled.
I don't even know what an actual credenza is. Okay, for being totally honest.
The moss-covered three-handled family credenza. No,
it's like a curio cabinet.
Yes, armbar. Okay,
I think I know an armbar.
Yeah, you might.
I don't know.
Okay, the Fujiwara armbar.
You've lost me.
Okay, I'll demonstrate on you later, off mic. So we open up AEW Dynamite, and I'm just going to go through the matches. If anything you want to talk about, person, match, whatever, you let me know.
Person, match, hair choice.
Okay. So, opening match, Darby Allin versus Jay Lethal. Okay. Yeah. So, this match, I'm not a big Jay Lethal fan. Yeah. I think AEW is doing some weird shit with Darby Allin and thinks he deserves better. I did see some online discourse about in the wake of CM Punk, who was actually better after wrestling CM Punk in AEW, like who after their feud with Punk was actually uplifted after the program, and a lot of people are saying nobody. I'm not gonna weigh into that on this show right now, or tonight. Maybe we'll talk about Punk in a little bit, but not necessarily that. But I will say, when I think about it, Darby was kind of hurt. Like after that Punk thing, he's just been twisting in the wind a little bit. Sting isn't with him.
No, he had fake Sting.
Right. Stinger's usually there. Sting's not. Sting hasn't been there in a bit. I don't necessarily know why. I hope he's okay. I haven't looked it up. I'm sure it's easily look upable. I just haven't. So you have Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh coming out to help Jay Lethal. That was
Sure.
the very tall man
Yes.
who and Sanjay Dutt, who had a pencil. I believe you asked me his name during this match. And there is a fake Sting that comes out.
There is a fake
Okay,
Sting.
now, back in the day, there used to be a fake Sting a lot in the mid-90s in WCW.
No.
So when Sting turned to Crow Sting, you've never seen the Crow movie.
I never have.
Pause for gasps from the home audience. But he took the look off of
Former goth kid. Never saw the Crow.
Right, off of the Crow. Supposedly Scott Hall's idea. Scott Hall saw the movie. Sting was looking to change things up because I showed you Sting earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Bleach blonde surfer Sting. Grows the hair long, puts the white face with the lines like Crow Sting. Hides in the rafters, wears a trench coat, has a baseball bat.
Yeah.
The feuding with the NWO, Mean Hulk Hogan, Hall and Nash, all those guys.
I feel like you're just saying words.
Right.
I don't even know
I
what
am.
you're saying.
And so fake Sting, there was a wrestler who was fake Sting, who was NWO Sting.
Oh.
And there's also been a few different fake Stings. There's even a fake Surfer Sting at one point, which was last week in wrestling history on At Odds with Wrestling. But they used to just wear the mask or paint the face, and it would be fake Sting. Or Sting would use a fake Sting to distract the bad guys, and like fake Sting would pop up, and then the real Sting would sneak up behind him. You know,
The word Sting no longer means anything to me
Right.
now. You've said
Good.
it too many
Okay.
times.
So, how did you feel about fake Sting?
I thought it was amazing. My favorite part of the entire AEW show.
The whole show. Okay.
Was when the fake Sting took off his mask and no one in the crowd gave a shit at all, and he looked like is there like a male equivalent of a Skipper doll in like Barbie? Because like whatever that would be, like that's what this kid was just like all like he just came from the mall and he's all excited and he takes off his Sting mask and everybody's gonna be so excited and he's like jazz hands and like people just got up and got their beers. Like nobody even reacted at all.
Yeah.
Favorite thing in wrestling ever.
It was very flat. Not the first flat reaction in wrestling. Crowd goes mild. I forgot to write down the kid's name. He's been in AEW for a bit. He was a WWE NXT guy who got let go in one of the mass budget cutting times over those past couple weeks. He's a very young guy. He's been around AEW in dark matches, developmental talent.
He looked like maybe, I don't know, 17 or 18.
I forget his name. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I'm not doing that on purpose, but it was a nothing reaction.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Everybody in the world.
It was amazing how, like, it wasn't even like people booed. They just gave zero shits.
Right.
They just did not react at all.
Right. Everybody's waiting for Sting to come out. Sting doesn't come out. Everybody's like, who's this fake Sting going to be? And when it comes, it's just a guy that, like, even if people recognize them, they're like, this kid, like, why do we care?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
There weren't even
right. It was dead.
Boos.
It
was amazing.
Which is worse.
Like it was
Which is worse.
so much worse. Like nobody even reacted whatsoever.
Right.
And they like paused for it. Like he like I swear he was like jazz hands and
it's
spirit fingers
it's sort
and
of
like nobody cared.
A bad idea by the bookers, Tony Khan or whoever, because us as wrestling fans, especially the fan that AEW courts and has as their base, is from that era of WCW with Crow Sting. So, like, we're trained as wrestlers to know that fake Sting is going to be a big deal. Like, and if it isn't, we're at least getting real Sting.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be somebody new joining the group who's fake. And we got none of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
disappointing. It was very disappointing.
It was really funny. It was really amusing.
So then, in the same bit, we get the debut of a man that I'm not a fan of, but it has a very big fan base on the soon-to-be-named network.
Okay.
Do you remember this guy's name who came out?
Who came out?
He had the guitar.
No, I vaguely remember that maybe Darby Allin had like a pool of blood under his head from a guitar.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, this happened just yesterday.
So this is So this is.
I remember there being a guitar, but like.
So this is Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, Jeff Jarrett. Oh, I do remember. He had like an accent, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I know. So,
long-term wrestling family, as he tried to explain in the rambling promo that he cut, it wasn't good. JEFF, JARRETT, Jeff Jarrett.
Did he spell that like that?
Yes,
Did
always.
he say that?
Yeah. I don't know if he said it, but that's his thing.
Like he's some sort of
So Jeff
hot
Jarrett,
dog brand?
Jeff Jarrett is a guy that not far off. Jeff Jarrett's a guy who has failed upwards in wrestling. This is the third or fourth, maybe sixth or seventh major promotion that he's appeared for this year.
Yeah.
He just had a high level executive job with the WWE like 3 months ago, and when all the stuff with Vince left, he left.
Oh.
And before his dad was a promoter, he got into wrestling that way. Very long standing wrestling family. At one point, very popular wrestler. I don't care for him, but it is what it is. He is now announced as being officially with AEW. He's in his mid-50s. Oh, he just wrestled Ric Flair in Ric Flair's last match.
50s.
Yes. He just wrestled Ric Flair in Ric Flair's last match also.
Ric Flair?
Yeah.
Isn't Ric Flair like 85? Why
like
is he wrestling?
73 or 4?
Oh, I remember he said this.
Yeah.
And he was going to die in the ring or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But he didn't.
He didn't. But he was actually against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal in that match. So, but Jarrett they announced.
I can't believe we're still talking about this first match.
We are. So Jeff Jarrett was announced as AEW's new director of business or new business or live shows or something.
Oh my God.
He is going to be helping run the live events and expanding their reach and sort of their abilities and the size of their live shows.
Is the guy who like folds up the chairs at the end of the night the director of chairs?
Yes.
Like, why does everybody in wrestling have a director title or better?
Well, the guy who runs
he's like, I'm the vice president of sodas, and like he literally just works at the concession stand.
Bird, and he's a nice guy. But no, he's an exec. Tony Khan has, since all the shit has happened that has happened.
I want to go be the vice president of soda.
Okay.
At the wrestling.
You know what?
shows.
In this house, you are. You are on this podcast. You're the vice president of sodas for the soon to be named network.
Thank you.
So
I expect a really good salary.
okay,
with that.
I'll talk to the Godfather. He had that same position at WWE and is now with AEW. And they're speculating maybe they're going to start running house shows, or with Ring of Honor happening on TV, he's got to help.
I don't know what any of this means.
A house show is like when WWE comes to the arena here and it's not on TV. It's just
and Vince McMahon blows up his limo.
A live event. Yes, well, that was on TV. But like when wrestling is down, the arena in Wilkes-Barre is good enough for Raw or SmackDown. When wrestling is up, that's a house show where it's not on TV.
But when wrestling is up, he blew up his limo at that arena. You don't shit talk that arena.
Okay.
Vince McMahon died there.
That's true. He did.
It was on the news.
Big T debuted there, so that's the second most important thing. All right. So Jeff Jarrett's in AEW. Everyone. He hits people with guitars.
Woo-hoo.
I'm not interested.
Darby Allin. He hit Darby Allin with the guitar.
He does. So
did he play the guitar? Why? I don't want to talk about this.
You don't
anymore.
want to talk
Let's
about
just
it.
move on.
You don't want to talk. We don't have time to talk about it.
Okay.
We're already a half hour into this fucking podcast. You're gonna kill me. So, Mox promo. You got nothing to talk about.
Nope.
They do the vignette of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks disappearing out of everything, which they're
I didn't understand that.
So they did it last week. So a couple weeks ago, Hangman Page,
it's like somebody editing their podcast.
Hangman Page cut a promo about how, because he used to be aligned with them and then he feuded with them and he's with Dark Order, but he cut a promo about how his best friends have disappeared. He used to have a bunch of friends and they've all disappeared.
He's the one that used to drink just like Temple Grandin.
Yeah, to dress like Temple Grandin.
Okay.
Yeah. So he said that, and he hasn't been on TV really since, but they've been running these vignettes where they are literally disappearing from stuff, right?
I'll go out and say it. Critic or not, I have never been a wrestler, so maybe I can't say this, but the Young Bucks suck, and I think TV is better off without them.
I agree.
They should.
I've watched a lot of wrestling, and I agree.
Hang up their fringe and.
Okay. They're executive vice presidents of Fringe, though.
They are. That is true. They're EVP of Fringe. So.
So then we get the match: Jon Moxley versus Lee Moriarty. Right.
I forgot that was even who he fought.
I like this match.
I liked his hair. It was like a broccoli.
So, right, exactly. I think this match was good. I think it picked up in the back half. You had commented on this match. I'm going to shake your memory here. You had commented that it seemed low stakes.
It did seem low stakes. It did, yes.
And so that's an interesting thing to me because that is a point in wrestling where I don't disagree. I don't necessarily agree. So I like that Mox is a fighting champion. I prefer my champion to have a match, not every week, but a lot of times, he's let him, but in wrestling, we've been trained that champions only lose titles at big events, right? You can kind of look at a guy and be like, well, he's only been champ for 3 weeks. He's probably going to have a longer run than that. He's probably not going to lose this match because we know too much about wrestling now. The inside is out everywhere. We all collectively as wrestling fans know too much. And some wrestling fans have a harder time sort of letting that go and enjoying wrestling. And there's also another side of wrestling fans that have too easy of a time letting that go and think wrestling is still real to them. Damn it. But I like this, but I agree. It does seem low stakes. Moxley's not going to lose the belt here. And people can complain about rankings and how does he get a shot if there's going to be a tournament for a number one contender, blah, 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 blah. None of that matters. It's as taxing and long-winded as you think it is. You specifically is not a wrestling fan. I like the fact that he just has challenges whenever he wants. I like Lee Moriarty. I like watching these young guys get to showcase against established talents and get better. I like Lee Moriarty. I like Mox. But yeah, Mox isn't losing this thing, and it's unfortunate because some fans then won't get into the match. They're like, oh, why do I got to watch this? Because, whatever. You watch it because it's going to be an entertaining match. And I thought it was good. I thought it picked up the last half. I thought it was a good match. I'm
glad you enjoyed it.
Thanks. Renee Young sat down with Saraya, and sadly, your favorite wrestler, Britt Baker, didn't show up.
Ugh. She makes me hate my own dentist more.
Okay.
I don't know.
So they're having a little feud. Saraya still needs to talk to one more doctor. I don't know, Dr. Luther, I guess.
I thought it was Dr. Britt Baker. I was confused.
Maybe. Before she's cleared.
DMD.
Who knows if she's cleared.
Which is redundant.
But she can do the hand thing with it. And
I hate it.
And the crowd can cheer along. Yeah.
We hate it.
Okay.
And this was the woman who was in the wrestling business for 30 years, 17 of it wrestling. I don't understand what the fuck
she's from a very famous wrestling family. There was a movie with The Rock in it about her. So, Tony Schiavone...
Wait, is she a giant gorilla? Or a tall building?
No. Both of those movies are probably better than Fighting with My Family. Although, Nick Frost does play her dad in that movie. And Florence Pugh plays... Saraya Page. It's a WWE movie. So she was WWE champ or Divas champion at like 19 years old. Whatever. All right. Tony Schiavone, who you love now, especially more after what we watched. Big fan of Tony Schiavone. Interviews with William Regal.
I like his earring.
Yes, nothing for you to see there. The thing that I'm very excited to talk to you about, Daddy Ass's birthday bash.
If I told you right now to scissor me, it would sound way inappropriate. Why is it okay for him to say it? I just...
Ooh.
See, you're joking to death.
Let me pause the podcast for a second. I have something to take care of.
Ew.
So scissor me, Daddy Ass. Scissor me right now, Michelle.
No, I absolutely will not.
Scissor me.
No, it's gross. I hate it.
Do it. Scissor me.
I hate it.
Scissor me. We will not move this podcast on unless you scissor me.
Well, then the podcast is over.
I'll sit here for 3 hours until you scissor me. Do it. Scissor me. Scissor me. Everybody loves the Acclaim. Do it.
It's so gross. I hate it so much.
Do it. Scissor me. No, that's a pen. Scissor me.
I won't.
Scissor me.
I hate it so much. It's inappropriate.
So, I thought this was really fun. I like it. So, you didn't see Friday, Billy Gunn got kidnapped and accosted and his hands hurt with a wrench or some sort of apparatus. He may never be able to scissor again, Michelle.
Well, no, they made him big foam scissor hands.
They made him big foam scissor hands, which I'm hoping are available tomorrow night at AEW Rampage in Atlantic City, because I'm going to buy a set. Will you scissor me with foam fingers?
Ugh.
If I buy 2 sets? If I buy a set, will you?
I don't. Do we have to call it scissor me? I hate it.
Yes.
I hate it so much.
Why?
It's so gross. I don't know. It just is gross.
Okay.
They know it's gross.
Mm-hmm.
Little kids were doing it, and it's just, and saying like scissor me, and it's real fucked up. I hate it.
Okay. So what was mentioned during this match?
Oh, they said that Daddy Ass was in one of, I even hate saying that. They said that he was in the worst match ever, which was a reverse battle royale.
Right.
Which I can only imagine is it starts with 30 people in the ring and then every 90 seconds somebody leaves.
Okay, so...
Which wouldn't work, but that's what I'm imagining.
So you love a battle royal.
I do.
So, it's your favorite kind of wrestling match. Right.
I mean, I don't like any wrestling matches, but if I had to pick a favorite, yes.
Okay. And so the first...
I like the drama of somebody's going to come out in 30 seconds and it's going to be Christian every time.
And I like that you ask me every time if that's still the same Christian, and it is.
It is the same Christian. And I also assume every blonde man in wrestling now is Christian.
So the first sort of wrestling you ever actually sat down and watched was a Royal Rumble.
It was a women's
The women's
Royal
where
Rumble.
Asuka won.
Yes.
And the male where Shinsuke Nakamura won.
I don't
Every year that
remember
was.
at
Yes.
all, but yeah.
It was. Because you commented how it was shocking that Vince had 2 non-white people win.
Oh, it
matches.
is shocking. I'm shocked that Vince allowed 2 non-white people to even be in the same room as him at the same time.
Asuka remains your favorite wrestler? Or is Becky Lynch your favorite wrestler?
No, I like Becky Lynch because she just breaks your nose and keeps going.
Yeah.
I like Asuka better.
And you like her rice cooker.
I do. I like her Instagram or her YouTube videos.
So
they're very entertaining.
So Billy Gunn was a part of the reverse battle royal.
Yes.
And because you love battle royals,
yes.
Here's what a reverse battle royal is. We almost watched this for the show, but I didn't want to put you through that. The reverse battle royal comes from Impact Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling.
Okay.
From the mid-2000s. So the reverse battle royal is 3 parts.
Does it have
this is from Wikipedia.
3 pages of rules?
No. Well, sure. The first part had 18 participants start outside the ring.
Okay.
And fend off opponents in an attempt to get in the ring.
Okay.
So everyone's fighting outside the ring, and people are diving to get in and being pulled out, and then they fight, and then somebody else tries to jump in.
Okay. I already hate it because I hate when people fight outside the ring because it just feels stupid.
Okay. So then, when 7 wrestlers have successfully entered the ring.
Okay. 7.
Other competitors are eliminated. So if you're outside the ring,
so they're not teams; it's just individuals.
Yes, individuals, just like a battle, just like a Royal Rumble.
Okay.
7 wrestlers enter the ring. Everyone else outside are eliminated, and it becomes a traditional over-the-top rope battle royal like the Royal Rumble.
So then people start entering.
No. Just with those 7 people.
Just with those 7 people.
So a battle royal is the match type. The Royal Rumble is the biggest of the battle royals, if you will. Battle royals have happened elsewhere, but the Royal Rumble is a WWE thing. More wrestlers, sort of. A lot of times, battle royal, everybody starts in the ring at once. You don't do the entrances. That's sort of what makes the Royal Rumble so special, is the entrances, because you're waiting and you do the countdown.
Part. Yeah, if everybody enters at once,
if you see a regular battle royal on TV, a lot of times they'll come back from commercial break and everybody's already in the ring.
I don't like that very much.
Not as fun.
I like it where we count down.
Yes.
And people just keep coming, and it's Christian like every time somehow.
Right.
They're all Christian.
So the third stage of the reverse battle royal, is when those 7 get cut down to the final 2.
Okay.
The match becomes a singles match.
What does that mean?
1-on-1.
Wasn't it? It was just
singles match, tag team match. Well,
that's because there's 2 people left.
Yeah, 1-on-1. Singles match.
Inherently it's 1-on-1 when 2 people are left.
Okay, so it no longer becomes an over the top rope elimination. It becomes a pin submission match. It becomes a regular wrestling match then.
Okay.
A regular 1-on-1 wrestling match.
Well, that's less fun.
And then the winner of that advances to the third stage, final stage of the tournament. And this was from 2006, where there's then a single elimination tournament. Blah 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 blah.
This does sound like they took a really fun thing and they made it boring.
Yes, yeah, it's terrible.
They were like, "We're gonna have a 7-course meal. Every course is oatmeal."
Impact Wrestling did it a bunch, and it's terrible every time. It is a shitty idea. I'm assuming from the mind of late stage brainworms Vince Russo. So, but that's the reverse battle royal. Be happy I didn't make you watch that.
Okay. I am happy.
Okay.
I mean, if the Acclaim says that it's the worst thing ever.
You believe them?
I do believe that.
You want a scissor?
I really
Scissoring.
I don't.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it. I got so excited.
No, I'm not going to do it.
All right.
I
softened you. Too sweet me, though.
Okay, I will.
See, you used to not do that.
I know, but it's because I don't want to do the scissor thing
So I just have to find something worse to counteract the scissoring.
There's nothing worse.
Well, wrestling can find something worse.
There's nothing worse.
Do not challenge wrestling to find something worse.
I did appreciate. We do have to talk about one more thing with this. Is that I don't want to call him Daddy Ass. Does he have a name?
Billy Gunn.
Okay, Billy Gunn. I appreciate the fact that he quit his own children.
Yes, abandoned his real life children.
Yeah, to go join this other team.
Yeah, because his real life children are dorks.
Well, I mean, they looked like idiots.
Yeah, because they come out right.
Yeah,
and then FTR comes out.
FTR did come out. That's right. I like their music.
Right, and you'll hear their theme music at the beginning of the show because Michelle actually does she will actually admit to liking something in wrestling, and it's FTR's theme music.
Their theme music, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me feel I'm driving Kit in Knight Rider.
And I explained to you that FTR, the one that hit the guy that tackled Bret Hart, so
yeah,
they get some bonus points. Because you like Mr. Hitman.
I mean, I don't not like him. Okay. I don't have any opinions about him, which is the highest praise you'll get as a wrestler.
Anything else on Daddy Ass's birthday bash?
No.
Okay.
I did like when they took the kids' scissors out of the thing.
With the
but then I did
hat,
not appreciate that they did the scissor thing with the kid because that's inappropriate.
Oh my god.
He's a little kid.
Okay.
Or it was a little kid. I don't know if it was a little boy. I don't remember if it was a little boy or a little girl. It doesn't matter. It was a little kid. It was a little child.
It was a child with long, thin, blonde hair.
I don't remember.
The child was at the stage that it wasn't quite sure, and even Bowens or whoever from the Acclaim, when they took it, said like buddy, and then later was like that kid, because they weren't sure either. It was an adorable little kid. Right, we don't need to know.
Adorable child. Very excited.
Everybody loves the Acclaimed.
To give away
the Acclaimed and Orange Cassidy, big hits with kids.
Yeah.
So, we get a Britt Baker interview. We're not going to talk about that because you hate Britt Baker.
I hate Britt Baker.
Chris Jericho's open challenge to any former Ring of Honor champion, tag, women's, world, TV, whatever. Mystery opponent. We don't know who it's going to be.
He was carrying a child's bat. Yes.
Yeah, you were. I told you that was Floyd. You were convinced it's a small child's bat.
It's so small.
Okay.
It is real. It's really. I mean, I understand that Jericho may not be a tall person, but
maybe I was saying maybe Jericho's huge. Oh,
no, it was a very short bat.
So, who was his opponent? Ended up being Michelle.
I can never remember his name. I want to say Copa Cabana.
Yes. Right.
What is his name?
Colt
Cabana.
Scotty Goldman.
Like a horse.
So, yes. So, Colt Cabana comes out, a shock to everyone. I think on no one's list. A lot of people expecting Low Key or Homicide, former Ring of Honor champions.
I was expecting Low Key Homicide.
Yes. Those are two people. Like Kid and Play.
Whoops.
But so Colt Cabana comes out, and this leads to an interesting thing. We're not going to talk about the match, except for the part where they both fall from the top rope because Jericho jumped a little too far and Cabana didn't have enough weight to pull him back, and they both sort of fell, and Jericho got wildly pissed off about it.
I want to talk about the fact that with all the talk of Colt Cabana that I've heard, which is just CM Punk hating him.
That's where I'm going with this.
With all of that talk, I was expecting somebody to come out and look more professional.
Okay.
But he looked like I airbrushed his jacket. And like, what is the weird like headband thing that he was wearing? Like, he looked very like amateurish.
Okay.
As compared to what I was expecting.
He is a perennial indie wrestler. He had a cup of coffee in the WWE and didn't quite work out. Other than that, he's been a perennial indie wrestler.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of indie wrestlers like still look more polished. But
Okay.
like he just really didn't look like I was
Interesting.
expecting.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand the airbrushed look with like the weird like
Well, the airbrush thing is a very
headband.
popular wrestler thing.
Right, but
And the
like
headband is something he can sell to kids at the merch table after his match.
the airbrushing though looked very
Okay.
like, you know, like I might get
Okay.
Denise airbrushed on the back of my jacket.
I don't know why you get Denise. That's weird.
I don't know.
Not your name.
It felt like a name that should be airbrushed on a
Okay.
jacket. I'm not sure. Michelle just really like.
Super weird. Denise. Okay. Weird. All right. So more about airbrushing later.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a tease for what we watched. So I wanted to talk about the CM Punk stuff, and I know it's old news and everybody in the world has talked about it, but you haven't talked about it, and you haven't been on this podcast to talk about it.
That's right.
So, Colt Cabana coming back on TV. So the long-standing sort of behind-the-scenes talk was that Colt Cabana was taken off AEW because CM Punk was brought in. And
Right.
Colt Cabana has not been on AEW TV since. They said
Until
they've moved him to
last
Ring of
night.
Honor, excuse after excuse. A lot of people, Dave Meltzer, I talked about Dave Meltzer a couple weeks ago. That my opinion of Dave Meltzer still stands. But Colt Cabana showing up on TV when all the stories came out that like Punk is getting a buyout, he will not wrestle there. He probably will never wrestle again. All that is getting resolved. They're showing the Young Bucks and Kenny on TV.
It certainly makes it feel a little bit more like plausible that
Right.
CM Punk was like, I'm not wrestling with him.
Right, and Colt Cabana like retweeted it and was like, "Great to be on TV this week." Wink, whatever.
Right.
So let's just talk really briefly. I talked your ear off endlessly about the CM Punk stuff when it happened.
You did. You made me watch it.
so I'm
you
sure-
tried to make me watch it a second
So I'm
time.
sure you remember all of it. You remember the details. Everybody at home knows this is like a Marvel movie. We don't have to go back over Spider-Man's fucking
No.
origin every movie.
All we need to remember is that CM Punk threw a shit fit because, I don't know, somebody was there that he didn't like or whatever.
Yes. So he said he worked with children.
You're friends with my friend that I'm not
There's-
friends with
right.
anymore.
But the people he's mad at are the Young Bucks.
I'm mad at the Young Bucks too.
Right.
for
So it's very
existing.
hard because
Yeah.
the Young Bucks suck. But there's theory, some talk now. So CM Punk's camp tried to float a story that what happened is when the Young Bucks kicked the door open aggressively, it swung and hit his dog in the face, Larry,
who then escaped.
and then it knocked two of Larry's teeth out, and that's why Punk got aggressive, and that's why Ace Steel went to get the dog and then bit Kenny Omega because he thought Kenny Omega was going
But not
after
the dog
dog.
bit him.
No,
The
Ace Steel, the
person
man
bit
bit him.
This is still the
And
wackiest.
Kenny Omega
Wrestling is a cartoon.
And Kenny Omega did an appearance like a week later in Japan at like a video game convention.
Yeah.
And had a very visible human bite mark on his arm.
That's amazing. I love it so much.
Ace Steel has been fired.
Oh no, I want him
Yeah.
to come back and just bite people.
So
He should charge $5 at a booth just to bite people.
that would be hilarious. So the rumor is that the Punk floating the thing about Larry isn't Punk's camp.
I love that his dog's name
Yes.
is Larry,
Isn't
but the
real.
man that bit somebody is
Yeah.
named Ace.
Yes. So
Like, fucking cartoon.
They're saying that was sort of floated because everything that else was going to come out, and it was going to eventually make CM Punk look bad. That now that the story can be talked about, that the lawsuits or the pending lawsuits have been dropped, the buyouts have happened, the real details are going to make Punk look worse. So his camp tried to float this dog
I wish
story.
that they said somebody bit his dog.
Right. So, Punk rumored to have been worried when he worked. Remember, he also had that beef with Hangman Page. Said was worried that Hangman Page was going to shoot on him in a wrestling ring and try and beat him up for
I don't
real.
understand what that means.
Fight him for real. Hurt him for real in the ring.
Okay.
Go into business for himself. Now, CM Punk once fancied himself a trained UFC fighter and has 2 UFC fights under his belt. Both losses, but 2 fights nonetheless.
Right.
So should you really be afraid of a guy who's never trained in, whatever? So all that has happened. So once and for all, the final lay this out for everybody, the people around the world, the millions listening at home. They want to know, Michelle, the final be-all, end-all of the AEW. CM Punk versus the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega feud.
No.
Blow off. How do you feel about it? Whose side are you on? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? Maybe nobody. What's your opinion? Lay it out for everybody. You as a person who understands wrestling inside and out, so has the absolute right to critique.
Yeah, because I've trained as a wrestler. I watch wrestling.
Right.
I watched at least 7 hours of wrestling in my life.
Who's right? Who's wrong? Maybe nobody.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Lay down the law. The final point on any of this that anybody gets to talk about.
Okay.
Your lips to Tony Khan's ears.
I want to start off by saying that John Wick is the most realistic movie in the whole world, because if somebody hurt my dog,
yeah,
you better believe I'd be taking my rocket launcher and going after you.
We have a rocket launcher?
We would get one.
Oh, okay.
We would order one from the dark web. I just have to figure out how to get on the dark web.
www.darkweb.com.
Just going to Google how to get on the dark web, buy a rocket launcher, and then go after the guy who hurt my dog.
Are you saying you believe the story that Larry's been hurt?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying if the dog got bit by a man, or whatever they're saying happened,
the door hit him and knocked some teeth out.
Okay, if the dog lost a tooth.
The Young Bucks super kicked the door in, used their finisher on the door.
With their fringe,
the door swung open, and Larry was next to the door. Larry got hit by the door.
Why is the dog just roaming free in the room?
I don't know. Ace Steel's wife was there supposed to be watching the dog, and the dog gets hit by the door. Why is nobody
mad at her?
And apparently,
what's her name? Christine Steele?
2 teeth got loose, and he had to get them extracted by the vet. But anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Okay, so if the dog got hurt, I would also be out for blood.
Okay.
I don't think I would still go about it the way that I did, especially if I'm a trained professional fighter. I would probably use my fists more than my words.
Okay. No fists.
But, that's presupposing that this whole dog story is real. Okay. I don't know. I'm confused about the whole dog part, because the dog got loose and a man bit a man, and I don't understand that whole part.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I will never side with the Young Bucks. I do not like them. I do not like their stupid faces.
Okay.
And so I will never side with them. Yeah. I'm not sure who Kenny Omega is.
That's fine.
Or what he's doing.
Okay.
But these men are executive vice presidents.
Yes.
We know everybody is, I'm the executive vice president of Sodas. Right. So I get that everybody gets an EVP title just for showing up. You're here. You paid $12 for this ticket. Here's an EVP title.
Right.
But still.
Elon Musk is charging $8 to become an executive vice president of Twitter.
Right, exactly. So but I still think, the title should come with a little decorum. And so I'm not taking CM Punk's side necessarily, but I get where his fury is coming from, because I also have that much rage toward the Young Bucks, and I've never actually had to talk to them.
Here's the thing though, the CM Punk rages at the presser, and then the dog stuff happens after.
Okay, but he's pissed off about the Young Bucks just existing in the world, right? He's just mad about that.
Well, and they stooge off all the behind the scenes secrets to Dave Meltzer.
To their buddy who's I don't know, whatever. So I get it. I get his rage, right? But he went out there and he made Tony Khan look like a fucking chump, and took out his anger in the wrong forum.
Okay.
You should be a professional. You have a little bit of a reputation for not being a professional, and you went out there and proved it true. And so while I get the rage, I just think he took it out in the wrong place and ended up making Tony Khan look like a chump. And Tony Khan, I think, is kind of a chump. And so he's got to start actively not looking like one in public.
Okay.
And so you got to take a hard stance there if you're Tony Khan. Like, I can only come at this as like a business person.
Okay.
And like as a business person,
Again, the executive vice president of
Sodas.
Of the soon-to-be-named network.
As my vice president background, I would fire his ass. Mm-hmm. That's what I would be like, you're out of my company. How do we get this man out of my company? Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think Tony Khan is doing the right thing by getting him the fuck out of the company and, like, then inviting his ex-best friend who he hates, who he went on the rant, to, like, immediately be on TV is just such a good, like, punch in the dick to CM Punk that I love it so much. It's, like, so much make me look like a chump, will you? Like, well, here's... Colt Cabana now has like this fancy TV spot. Like, how do you like them apples, CM Punk? So I love that about it. But I just think the Young Bucks should just be erased from all of television. I hate them. I hate them and in their stupid fringy pants that are never quite long. Wrestlers' pants are never long enough, and I just don't understand it. I guess it's a tripping hazard, but it looks terrible.
You wouldn't know this, but like I think, and this was discussed on At Odds with Wrestling last week. I think AEW has been better without them. I think that they should be doing less of this Ring of Honor stuff and showcasing more AEW stuff. Especially for you, from a standpoint of if they're trying to bring new viewers in, you're confused by the Ring of Honor stuff.
I was confused by it, and it just felt like a lot of like cross-promotional, like synergy marketing kind of crap that I didn't care for.
They're trying to pitch for a TV show. They're trying to build up the brand so that it can go out on its own again. In a bigger name than it ever has.
It felt like it was being forced on me in a way that like I did not feel like, I really have to go check out this Ring of Honor. Right. It was like, why am I being forced to experience all this Ring of Honor? Exactly. And like Colt Cabana just didn't, like at the same time that I'm like, this was awesome because it's a real like kick to CM Punk's nuts. Mm-hmm. Like at the same time, I felt like Colt Cabana maybe wasn't ready for prime time.
Okay. Right. I mean, people will disagree with that, but that's fine.
I'm okay with that. They can disagree with it. I know absolutely nothing about wrestling, so they're probably right. So, I'm judging this solely based on his mall airbrushed jacket.
The Colt Cabana is a very well-liked guy. I will say that behind the scenes. He's had some beef with some members of the Soon-to-be-named network, but that beef has been squashed.
Squash and beefs.
Years ago, so we don't have to talk about that in the specifics. But... all right, we had that. That's the final say.
If he's listening, he's not going to listen to this podcast. But if he did,
Cabana got extra famous for having a very popular pro wrestling, interview podcast. The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana. That's
isn't that where CM Punk and him had like the big falling out?
Well, that's where CM Punk went on the podcast and buried the doctors at WWE, which led to the lawsuits, which led to Punk in the lawsuit because it was his podcast, and Punk because he was saying it, and then Punk agreeing to pay for Colt Cabana's law expenses, and then paid for his
mom. Right, I don't know, something about his mom. I don't remember.
That's the final say on CM Punk. It's over.
It is over.
You've ended it.
I've ended it
with a great point of view. So thank you. We have after that. There's a great brawl post match. Then we have the 3-way match: Orange Cassidy versus Rey Fenix or Fenix, depending on who you on commentary is saying the name, versus the dinosaur dummy himself, Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
This is the winner of this gets their dream match on Friday in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. Anything about this match that you want to talk about? Because you like Orange Cassidy.
I do like Orange Cassidy. He's entertaining. He's funny. Mm-hmm. I was really excited. I guessed that they were setting up like the orange, they were doing the orange thing and they kept talking about a little bit of the bubbly and I was like, oh, they're going to make mimosas. And then they did the mimosa match and I was very excited for it. And then it did not pay off. Mm-mm. But yeah, I mean, I liked Orange Cassidy. I liked, I'm going to say his name like all the commentators did late in the match, Rafe. And so, I thought that they were fine wrestlers.
Did you like Orange Cassidy's backpack?
I thought his backpack was hilarious. Okay. I like that he can't be bothered to carry his own belt. Like he can't be bothered with the weight of the belt. He needs a backpack. It's very funny. But I liked the most that they just cut the dinosaur guy right out of the match.
Yeah.
Like he just kept like being outside of the ring, and they were like, let the big boys wrestle. And then he would try to come in, and they were like, no, let the big boys wrestle. And so then they wrestled, and then he would try to come in again, and they were like, no. And then finally Jungle Boy came out. I'm sorry, Jungle Jack or whatever, Jungle Juice, I don't know. And then he came out and then he was like, no, don't, the big boys are wrestling, and he hit him with a chair.
I like that Luchasaurus is like a legit 6'5" or 6'6" and like giant, and you're referring to the 2 men under 200 pounds as the big boys.
Well, because they were like the grown-ups.
Yes.
They were like, the grown-ups are talking.
Okay.
They were like, here's your juice box. You go sit over there. They did not want him to wrestle because they had to do their flippy shit.
Again, you have to ask if that was the same Christian.
Oh, was he there? I
Yes.
don't remember him.
Yes, so Christian Jungle Boy.
He was just doing commentary, wasn't he? He was sitting at the table.
Yes, but he manages Luchasaurus. So he's hurt. So Christian, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus were a team.
Yeah.
And then Christian turned on them and got hurt. He was supposed to have a big match, but he got hurt. So then they turned Luchasaurus evil, and Luchasaurus is Christian's right hand of destruction against Jungle Boy.
So I just remember Christian used to be like shirtless and have long blonde hair, and now he is just a human turtleneck.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Right. So you also had said that you don't understand why Jungle Jack is Jungle anything because he no longer has a dinosaur friend. Or what you don't understand why the dinosaur friend exists without the jungle friend.
I don't understand why the dinosaur... Well, I mean, dinosaurs don't live in the jungle. Okay. Let's just get that out there now.
They probably did at some point.
I mean, maybe. But, like, there are still jungles.
Yeah.
He's doing, like, a Tarzan thing.
Yeah.
Tarzan did not have a dinosaur.
Right.
We'll just throw that out there.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't understand why, like, they were, like, I don't remember what they were. The Dinosaur Express or something like that. Jurassic Express. And now it's just, like, he's just a lone dinosaur.
Yes. An evil,
evil
lone dinosaur. He's
just alone in the world. He's just like an alone dinosaur.
That's sad. He's the last one.
Is it sad though? Like, it's just, I mean, it's sad, but it's like not like, oh, I'm sad. You're just like, this is just kind of sad. You're just like a big dinosaur alone in the world who can't wrestle.
Okay.
And then all your friends are like, go sit down while we wrestle because you're bad at it. Just go over there. Okay. And he did. He just went over there. That was like the whole gist of his wrestling match. It's like, I'll just go sit down. I'll let you wrestle.
It's funny that Luchasaurus exposed himself enough in that match for even you who don't understand wrestling to realize that he is a far lesser wrestler than the other two.
No, he was literally like, I'll just leave you guys to it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out there and just be a dinosaur. Yes. And then they were like, okay, we'll just like dive at you every couple of minutes and then we're going to get back in the ring. And then when you try to get back in the ring, they just like shoot him away.
Yeah.
They shoot him away or they just threw him out there and he's like, okay, I'm out here now.
Yeah.
Like in case anybody comes out here and they're like, we're not gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very obvious that that's what they were doing. And then they're doing all their flippy shit. And then he's just like, la la la, I'm outside. I'm just a dinosaur.
Okay. He did be in the ring during the commercial break for a good portion, but
it was the commercial break.
It's true.
I was watching, I don't know, Geico or whatever was happening on the thing.
So let's talk
every political ad ever that I want to die from.
Let's talk post match. Orange Cassidy wins.
Yes, and
so talk about the state of our living room while this happened.
Well, you got very excited.
Yes.
I don't understand. It was the ciabatta man.
Yes.
I love his bread.
Yeah.
He came out, and you were very excited.
Yes.
I think you yelled and you stood up, and then you were like texting a lot of people, and I was very confused. And then they signed the papers for Orange Dreamsicle to happen.
Yes, right.
Which is what I'm calling Orange Cassidy's dream match.
Okay. So that is Shibata
Yes.
Famed Japanese wrestler, and a guy we've explained to you before. There's the man who headbutted some Kazuchika Okada so hard that they had to take his brain out.
Right, and he died, and he's back now.
Yes, he almost died. He had to take his brain out.
Yeah.
He's never supposed to wrestle again. This will be his third match in total since his injury.
We've been talking about wrestling for like an hour.
We have, yeah.
This is a long podcast.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're almost done. I promise. You're talking a lot. It's on you, lady. So, yeah, I'm very excited for Shibata. I'm going to be there live in Atlantic City to see it. I'm super excited. I hope it's a good match. I hope it's a long match. I hope it doesn't get, like, a lot of fuckery involved. Like, I hope the fuckery that's going to inevitably happens afterwards.
Well,
my guess is they wrestle, they have a match, they're then jumped by...
Yeah, if I've learned anything...
Death Triangle, and then the pay-per-view, we get Orange Cassidy teaming with Shibata versus Pac and Phoenix or Pac and Penta.
I don't know what any of that means.
Okay.
But I do know that based on the small amount of AEW I watched, which was 2 hours yesterday, that 18 people will run into the ring.
Yes, a lot of almost, I think every segment had after-match run-ins.
Yes.
And AEW's been doing this a lot, and it's lazy.
Well, and that was the
because
guy...
they're trying to build stuff, and I think it's just a lazy way to do it.
That was the guy he kept trying to give Rafe and with the hammer.
The hammer pack, yeah.
And he's the man that looks like Butters when they glue the fur to him. When they're trying to pretend that he's a dog, yeah.
Okay.
He looks like his hair has been glued onto him. Okay. I don't understand what's happening.
Okay.
But like he's got like this like really like a crazy body where he's like in great shape, and then his hair just looks like they took a man's head and just glued patches of hair to it. And it doesn't look like it's in the places where hair belongs, and I don't understand what's happening there.
Okay. Interesting. That's Pac. Used to be in WWE, was known as Neville, and was
like Harry Potter.
No, but yes. I
don't care for Harry Potter.
The man Gravity forgot.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I believe that for the same reasons that they are saying it, but that makes sense to me.
Okay. All right.
That's the forces of nature are not working on that man the same way that they are with the rest of us.
Super excited about Shibata. Do you have a note? Is that why you went to your notebook?
No.
Okay.
No, my notes do not say a lot of good things.
Okay.
They mostly just say reverse battle royal and that's it.
Okay, so next up is Jade Cargill versus Marina Shafir.
Is this the part where everybody started attacking everyone, or was that later? I was confused.
That was much later.
Oh, okay.
That was the end. So we'll talk about that in a second. This I don't want to spend much time on. I like Jade. This Nyla thing is boring, and Nyla comes out with the belt, and they do the live commentary with Vicky Guerrero. Whatever.
I never even felt like Jade might lose that match.
Right. Jade's very stale because there's no stakes.
No, and then like the whole Vicky, whatever her name is, I don't care for her.
I said this a few weeks ago.
I didn't care for her in WWE, and she's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're too late on pulling the trigger on Jade. I think they had a great opportunity a few weeks ago to do it with Willow Nightingale and have her win the title and have Jade move into the main women's title picture. And the fact that they haven't, she's at 41 wins in her career, 0 defeats. I think they're probably now going to try and get her to 50. I just think it's stale, and like nobody's gonna complain when Jade comes on TV. Look at her. Nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, Jade's walking down the ramp. Get her out of here," because she is a phenom. She's a presence.
When I liked that they like brought up like that she called out, like they were bringing up her Twitter life.
Yes.
Because like her wrestling, they were like, "Well, we can't do anything with this. We'll bring up her Twitter and talk about how Bow Wow." Right. Shot his shot.
But Marina Shafir,
got shot
not
down.
good. Nyla Rose, this stuff stinks. Let's stop that. The main event, Samoa Joe, is for the Ring of Honor TV title, which is funny because the Ring of Honor World title match was in the middle of the show.
Yeah, like why am I watching so
World
much Ring of Honor?
I was feel earlier in the match, even still.
I feel like I watched a lot of Ring of Honor watching.
So Samoa Joe versus Brian Cage. Your thoughts on Brian Cage?
I think he looks like a cartoon horse. He looks like he looks like he's doing pony play in the middle of real life. I don't understand what's happening there.
All right.
He's got hooves for feet.
Yes.
And he's got the world's worst facial hair.
Okay.
And he is just a ball of roid rage.
Okay. He claims to be all natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Matt Samoa
Is
Joe
anybody
wins.
like, oh yeah, I'm on a lot of steroids?
Well,
This body's coming from a lot of steroids. I don't think anybody comes out and says that.
true. They should.
But he looks like one of the royal guard from My Little Pony.
Okay.
So
I like it. Look it up. So that's the end of Dynamite. I don't have anything else to say about it. The main event was fine. I've managed to get Michelle to talk about a wrestling show for over an hour.
yeah,
There's a little bit left to talk about.
it's so much wrestling.
I'm
I'm tired.
We just finished watching it. I picked this match for you to watch from WCW Fall Brawl 1994.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the main event of that show, War Games. Joe, do you want to tell people who were in this? Who were in the War Games match from Fall Brawl '94?
It was I don't remember the Stable Boys.
Okay,
What were they
close
called?
enough. Close enough.
Versus the FBI,
And what does the FBI stand for?
Fat Boys Incorporated.
Okay, so it is the Stud Stable,
Oh, okay.
the team of Colonel Robert Parker,
Colonel Sanders.
manager,
Yeah.
Mr. On Andathian, Bunkhouse Buck,
Yeah.
and Terry Funk,
Terry Funk.
accompanied by Meng. Supposed to be in the match. I think Meng gets hurt. They don't say that. There's a contract signing and there's some trickery pull, and then Robert Parker's forced into the War Games match
Yeah.
on the Stud Stable side.
And he's not pleased about it.
And they cut a promo. I made you watch all the build, and Terry Funk calls them the FBI. And he said, "What does the FBI stand for?" to me. And then Terry Funk told you that it stood for Fat Boys
Fat
Incorporated.
Boys Incorporated. Yeah.
Which is funny because Terry Funk, this is 1994, Terry Funk in 95, 96, 97-ish is in ECW where there is a stable called the FBI, the Full Blood Italians. And they're like a mafia gimmick, including Tracy Smothers. Not Italian at all. Anyway, so Fat Boys Incorporated is actually tentatively called Nasty
Dream.
It is the team of Dustin Rhodes, the natural Dustin Rhodes, and the Nasty Boys,
Showing off their way better airbrushing than Colt Cabana.
whose names are, Michelle, the Nasty Boys.
Chad Snugs
Okay. And
and Brad Snugs.
okay, they're not both named Snugs. Neither of them are named Snugs. It is Jerry Sags and Brian Knobs,
Oh,
the Nasty Boys, as nasty as they want to be.
they're not named Chad and Brad.
They are not Chad and
They-
Chad and Brad Snugs.
I,
Somebody write that down. That has to be. Joe, you have pull in this business. Talk to the boss. We need a Chad and Brad Snugs somewhere in professional wrestling. I don't know what they do. I don't know what their gimmick is.
they were Snuggies.
Oh, God, they wear Snuggies. Jesus Christ.
Airbrushed
Okay,
Snuggies.
airbrush Snuggies. Write it down, people. Okay, so War Games match. Do you want to describe do you remember all the rules? to
Oh
the
my
War
god,
Games
so there
match?
was like 4 pages of rules.
Okay,
I'm not exaggerating either. 4 pages
Yes.
of rules flashed up on the screen.
right.
There's a cage.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 rings.
Yes.
You can't tap count out. I don't know. You can't. There's no disqualifications, and you can only get out if you quit.
Yes.
You gotta surrender or submit. Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know. There was 4 more pages of
Okay.
rules, but I
So-
don't remember any of them.
So
There's so many rules.
It's 2 guys start, 5-minute
Oh
period.
yeah, there was like a coin toss,
and then there's a coin toss for
which
advantage.
they botched.
Whoever wins, yes, Randy Anderson botched it, and then whoever wins gets advantage, and their team member gets to go in. So then it's 2-on-1. The
Okay.
Stud Stable, the bad guys, get the advantage.
Right.
So then they have advantage through the rest of the match.
Yes.
So first off is Dustin Rhodes versus
Well,
Arn Anderson.
first off, there
Okay.
are the mullets in the crowd The mullets on the wrestlers, but
Yeah.
the mullets on the fans
Yes.
were amazing.
Okay. It's
So
1994.
we just have to mention that.
This is 1994 in Roanoke, Virginia. The mullet
Right, well,
is still
I
in
mean,
Roanoke.
I know, but like,
Sorry to our fan base in Roanoke.
well, the mullet is back, DJ.
That's true.
And Tony Schiavone rocking a mullet,
Mm-hmm.
not the same mullet that he's got today.
Yes.
Still looked like he was wearing his dad's tuxedo.
Okay.
But amazing. You
Okay.
said that he had the earring. I didn't witness
Well,
it
the-
myself,
The
but
cans are bigger, so he
yeah.
had the cans over his ears.
no glasses.
Nope. He was a perfectly sighted gentleman in 1994.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
That was all I had to mention.
That's it?
Oh, well, and then they were doing the whole thing where, leading up to it, they were talking about how Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair were going to
Yes.
fight at Halloween Havoc,
Mm-hmm.
October 23rd in Detroit, which was their next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And
Halloween Havoc, a huge pay-per-view for WCW.
okay.
Joe and Adam talked about this last week on Adams also. Sort of WCW's WrestleMania for a few years.
Okay. So, and then, like, whoever lost was never going to be able to wrestle again. We both know that they...
If Hulk Hogan lost.
Oh, okay. He's never going to wrestle again.
Nowhere.
So
Nick
we know,
Bockwinkel
like,
says never, nowhere ever, not even another promotion.
Yeah. So, like, that definitely
Right.
happened. But then, like, Nick Rickenbacker, whatever he said his name is.
Bockwinkel.
That's more ridiculous
Yeah.
than what I said. He's going through the whole thing, and then he's like, it's gonna be a steel cage match, and
Yes.
Mean Gene loses his shit. He's like, no way, can't be that's not a steel cage match. Blah, oh my god. And like, I don't understand, why is a steel cage match so dangerous?
So they talk about it a bunch during the War Games, because War Games is also a steel cage
I know,
match.
but it just
it's a little
makes it hard
different
to
because it has a
film.
ceiling that's low. So because a steel cage means there's no disqualification. So, in wrestling, if you put
So, like,
someone
what are
in,
they gonna bring a gun in there? Like, it's not
Sure.
that, like...
a gun that shoots knives. No, so like if you
Like,
get someone,
Terry Funk did take off his shoe and beat a man with it, and then he got beat with his own shoe.
So I convinced you to come on a podcast and talk about a Terry Funk match with me. We're going to dive into that in a second. So a steel cage, so there's no disqualification, right? So in wrestling, if you get somebody in a submission hold and they reach the ropes, you have a 5 count to break it or you're disqualified. Doesn't happen in a cage match. No DQ.
Okay.
You can use weapons. You can bring in a weapon. You can gouge eyes. You can fish hook. You can close fist, right? You also can use the cage. You smash
But
people off
nobody
the
ever
cage.
does any of that.
Yeah, they
I mean,
do.
they use a cage, but they're
Right.
not, like, bringing in weapons and,
No,
like, punching each other.
sometimes they do. It depends on what the cage match is in the era. Terry Funk grabbed something from under the ring and started using it.
Well,
A
'cause he
random
went in
piece of
between
ring.
the two rings.
We'll get
Okay.
there. So believe me, I'm so excited to talk about a Terry Funk match with you. It's insane, especially one where Terry is this fucking great in. So the stud stable. So let's talk about Colonel Robert Parker for a second.
Oh, he was outside the ring. He had the vapors.
Okay. So
He's like fanning himself.
Right.
He was like Scarlett O'Hara
Right.
out there. He was so upset.
So you kept asking me about Colonel Robert Parker, and I want to show you a picture of Colonel Robert Parker. And
Is
I'm
it on the side of a bucket of chicken?
No, I'm going to show you the mythos of Colonel Robert Parker. Now, this is Colonel Robert Parker more recently, I would say within the last 10 to 15 years. Okay. Colonel Robert Parker, and I guarantee you Joe is rolling on the floor right now because he knows what I'm about to talk to you about. Colonel Robert Parker has been in wrestling for a very long time. The Tennessee Stud, if you will. And has a reputation in professional wrestling. So here's a picture of Colonel Parker, like now-ish. Well,
Okay.
I don't know if he's still alive, but like the last 10 years of Colonel Robert Parker.
I thought
Okay?
you looked him up and he died.
So Colonel
Or is
Robert
that
Parker is
somebody
very
else?
famous for something in professional wrestling. He had a reputation. Okay? This is the same picture of Colonel Robert Parker.
Oh boy.
Long rumored to have what some consider would be the largest penis in professional wrestling.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. Missy Hyatt's the one who sort of said it. He sort of said, I don't know how she'd know, but thank you. But Colonel Robert Parker, the Tennessee stud, you can see in that picture, he's at least a third penis here, right? He's a third of his body is penile, if you will.
Sure.
So that's what Colonel Robert Parker is very famous for. He's very sweaty in this match also.
It's so sweaty. And I have a hard time thinking about his penis because I'm just busy thinking about him being very sweaty and having the vapors. He was very upset that he was going to have to go in. He did not want to fight. He was
He's the last
terrified.
one in. He's a manager at this point. He's not a wrestler.
He was really scared. Yeah. And he was like, fanning himself and like he's so sweaty. Like he sweated all the way through his shirt. And like he's dressed all in white.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
So the I'll back up a little bit. So Arn Anderson teams with Dustin Rhodes, turns on Dustin Rhodes, right? Okay. And that joins the stud stable. And then
Dusty Rhodes asks
and then Dusty cuts this great promo that almost made me cry every time I see it. I almost cried when I showed it to you before when it was on the show. Where he's like, listen here. He's like, I don't need a handshake deal. I don't need your name on a contract. He goes, I don't need any of that. He's like, you're my son. And he's like, all I need is a hug and a kiss, baby. And they hug and kiss.
Literally, he said that.
And he did. And the crowd goes crazy. Because, like, Dusty... So, this is, like, the last big thing in wrestling that Dusty does. He comes back later, even in WWE, to team with Cody. But, like, come 1995... Now, this is September of 94. Come 95, he's full-time commentator. He's still wrestling. He's still there before this in 93. But, like, this is sort of the last hurrah of Dusty. In some ways, this match is the last hurrah of the Southern style WCW wrestling company.
Okay.
They sort of, with Hogan there, they embrace Hogan and everything that comes with it, which changes the style, gets away from wrestling and brawling, and becomes more of the fake tans, big muscles kind of wrestling company. Right. So this is sort of a last hurrah in a lot of ways for Dusty, last hurrah for this style of match. Other War Games happen. This is one of the best ones ever, and probably the last really great one until like the original WCW run.
Because after this, people realize there's 4 pages of rules, and it's too complex.
So we get Dustin and Arn starting. Then Bunkhouse Buck comes in. They win the coin toss. Bunkhouse Buck comes in. Then Jerry Sags, right? And it's fine.
I feel as though I've never heard the name Jerry Sags before. What's that?
That's the one. That's the Black-haired nasty boy.
Oh, it's Chad Snugs.
That's Chad Snugs. Okay. So after Jerry Sags, Terry Funk comes in. Now for my own amusement, let's talk Terry Funk. In my opinion, the star of this War Games match.
Well, so he is pretty funny because he takes his shoe off
before he's in the ring.
Before he even goes in.
Right. He's trying to put it over his fist.
Well, and even before that, though, the Nasty Boys looked like they were very upset to have to, like, separate. Like, that only one of them was going to go in first, which is funny.
Well, because they're a tag team. We also didn't talk about how Dusty Rhodes recruits them in a bar. And he's like, listen here, Daddy, I don't know if you're nasty enough to deal with what I need you to deal with, baby. And they're like, we're not nasty. And then they beat up a bunch of people in a bar.
They, like, flip a table and they're like, how's that for nasty?
Right.
And it wasn't nasty, but and
it was, to be fair, it was as nasty as they wanted to be.
I'm still confused about whether or not nasty means that they are like bad, or if nasty means they're gross.
It's both. I told you that.
I know, but like
it's both.
They're more gross than really nasty. But yeah. So he recruits them in a bar. And then, like, one of them is, like, they're, like holding hands as they separate, and one goes in the ring. And then Terry Funk goes in, sans shoe.
Yes.
He takes off his shoe.
Yeah.
Goes in, hits somebody with his shoe, and then immediately goes between the 2 rings.
He gets thrown there, and he falls between the 2 rings, yes.
Yeah. And then he comes up with like a piece of the ring and like tries to hit somebody with it.
Comes up between one of the Nasty Boys' legs. I think. Well, at this point,
yes,
Knobs isn't in because Brad goes in. So.
Brad Snugs has come in now.
Okay.
So yeah, and then he like tries to hit somebody with like a part of the ring, but then he like throws it back down in the ring, like in between. But like he immediately like just goes down in the crack of the
Yes.
two rings.
He's a madman.
Yeah, and then he's like beating people with his shoe, but then he loses the shoe, and one of the nasty boys has the shoe and is then beating him with the shoe.
Yes.
He never gets the shoe back on.
He does not.
Never. And it's the whole match,
even
he's
climbs
only with one shoe.
He climbs the cage at one point and hangs from the top and kicks someone with his socked foot.
Yes, he does. Yeah, and he's got one shoe for the whole match. Right. And yeah, this match is just a mess.
So Bunkhouse Buck disrobes, his belt and his one suspender
his one
comes off.
suspender comes loose, and then he just decides he's going to take his belt off.
Yes.
So then his pants are just
He's got one suspender on still.
He does have one on, but like his pants are just at high risk of coming off. He needed two apparatuses or
it's true.
Apparati, I don't know. Two of them to keep his pants up, and then he just has none.
Okay.
So we're at high risk for getting a pantsless Bunkhouse Buck here. And he takes off his belt, and then he's like strangling with somebody with it. But then suddenly there's another belt, and I don't know where that one came from. So it
might
must
have been
Terry's.
I'm thinking it was Terry's.
So he must have taken off
because Terry's
his
also
belt
wearing
too.
jeans because it's a brawl. So you wear jeans to a street fight or a brawl. So Terry was Terry was prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there's a second belt, and like Colonel Sanders is still outside, and he's got the vapors. He really doesn't want to go in.
Right, because it's down to him and Dusty.
Then,
and Dusty are the last two.
Right, and then they have to, Dusty goes in, and Dusty is wearing
Dusty's the last one in, yeah.
He's wearing the Colonel guy goes in, and they have to push him in.
Yeah.
So the injured guy pushes him in. And he goes in, he's very upset, he's very sweaty, he does not want to be in there. And then Dusty Rhodes goes in, and he's wearing a Nasty Boys, the Nasty Boys have given him a shirt,
Dream shirt.
but he's cut the collar off of it, so it's hanging off of one shoulder, like he's in Flashdance.
Right.
And so he's
imagine Flashdance if Dusty Rhodes was in it.
So he's got his one shoulder shirt,
baby.
and he's going in, and he's doing his Flashdance, and then
hitting lots of elbows, the bionic elbow for everybody,
and then and at one point we've missed this, but at one point Dustin Rhodes is wearing a very yellow number,
yes,
just
the classic shorty tights,
right?
Not even shorties, just the classic tights,
and then we get film
he climbs the turnbuckle and goes from one ring to the other.
And the camera guy is right under his balls, and he's in yellow, so we're in his penis here. And I'll just never understand wrestling. So then all of this stuff is happening, and people are getting choked with all these belts, and then this Colonel guy is in there for a minute and a half. And then suddenly he's surrendered, and it's very confusing.
Because Dusty gets a hold of him, and Dusty beats him up, and Dusty puts him in the figure 4.
Okay.
And Terry Funk tries to get Dusty off of him, and Dusty beats up Terry. He's punching Terry from the figure 4 position, and Colonel Parker gives up. He quits. Which is the strategy you want to do because he's not a wrestler, so that's who you want to target. Right. It's very short.
You find the very sweaty guy.
Once Dusty gets in there, it's very short. They go after Colonel Parker very quickly. Yeah.
Right.
And everyone celebrates. The crowd goes crazy when Dusty gets in that ring. Dusty's still a huge star. His son, Dustin, still wrestles in AEW today. One of the best to ever do it. Such a huge Dustin Rhodes fan. I love Dusty. I love Terry most of all.
And he's only got one shoe.
He's only got the one shoe. Terry is a madman.
By this time, his shoe is just gone. I don't even know. One of the Nasty Boys had it for a long time, but then I don't know where it goes.
So, this is a great match. This is a quality War Games match. It's bananas. Sometimes War Games has a little more actual wrestling than this, but this is just a crazy brawl. Not meant to be, but sort of a send-off to what WCW was to then become what they are, what they become, through the 90s and become the number one company for 83 weeks, if you will. So that match is only 19 minutes. That's the end of it. Dusty Rhodes, the Nasty Dreams win it. The good guys prevail. Meng comes in and everybody kind of leaves, right? Terry at one point, or Dusty at one point in the promos tries to fight Meng and he breaks the chair over his head he's Meng at this point. Meng, actual legitimate to one of the toughest men to ever live. Just a complete badass. Match would have been very different if he was in it. So Colonel Parker being there is a very, very important piece to this match. But that's the Stud Stable versus the Nasty Dream.
It sure was.
Is there anything else that you want to add to watching War Games from Fall Brawl 94? Did you enjoy it at all? I think you enjoyed it. You enjoyed Terry Funk, and I had a feeling you would because Terry is just. You can't not just smile at the insanity that Terry Funk is at this point.
It was funny that he took off his own shoe before going in. Like he definitely had a plan.
Yeah. You also asked me a very weird question at the beginning of this match about Terry Funk.
What did I ask?
You asked me if The Undertaker had stolen his bit from Terry Funk.
Well, they both wear cowboy hats and like black shirts.
They don't, though. A Taker's hat is a little different than just a plain old cowboy hat.
I don't know. My takeaway from this match...
My answer was that everybody stole from Terry Funk because Terry Funk is the best.
My takeaway from this match is just that there's not enough like big sloppy guys in wrestling now.
This is something I really like that you said. That there's not enough fat sloppy guys in professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's too many like...
And I agree.
Like, I don't know... like bodybuilder guys now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too. I think the WWE becomes Vince's style makes the bodybuilders the norm, and that's sort of what WWF was even doing at the time. And WCW had more of the shit kickers, and that's a lot of people now get down on wrestlers for not being in shape. A lot of people get down on Eddie Kingston for not being in shape, but Eddie Kingston is a very super talented wrestler. Your body doesn't matter. I would, Brian Cage looks like $1 million, but I would never want to watch him wrestle. Especially not over someone like Eddie Kingston, but for damn sure over the Dusty Rhodes was my favorite of all time. Terry Funk's in really good shape, but was never he was cut in 1989, but before that he was never a cut guy. He just was a normal looking dude. Right. But I like not out of shape wrestlers because Dusty Rhodes was never out of shape. He could wrestle for an hour. He was just a bigger guy.
Right, but out of Orange Cassidy and Rafe and Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
Luchasaurus is the only one that looks like a bodybuilder,
right.
but he can't even wrestle. They just
and that's,
give him a juice box and make him go outside.
Sort of the poison of WWE's style became that upper body business body guy. And not that WWE hadn't had fat guys, but there became a certain point in the late 90s through now where the fat guy was a novelty act. He had to be funny because he was fat. Before that, in the 80s and early 90s, if you were a big fat guy, you were stronger. They built you as stronger than everyone else. John Tenta was a world-class sumo wrestler, was a big fat guy. They just built him as stronger. You couldn't move him around. Now, it's novelty. You come out and you do a silly dance and, whatever. And it's unfortunate. I miss the era of wrestling where guys looked different and would face each other in different ways. A fat guy would wrestle different than a built guy or a fast guy, or the 6'5" guy would wrestle the little guy, or the bodybuilder would wrestle, or the fat guy would come out and his gimmick, like Adrian Adonis, was that he was super good looking and everybody would boo him and be like, no, you're gross, and he'd be like, no, I'm so handsome. I miss that variety in wrestling, and it is very much a sort of more southern style, which I akin AEW to trying to replicate, even though they're basing it in the Northeast because we're such a hotbed of wrestling. It's very much that WCW Southern Territory style, and not that they didn't have guys that look good. Ric Flair was most of the time always in shape, but Harley Race looked like, you don't know these names, but Harley Race looked like a ballroom brawler. But Dusty Rhodes, he used to say, my belly may be a little too big, my butt may be a little too big, but people loved him, and he would come out and he would be dressed real nice and whatever, and he could wrestle for an hour. It just didn't matter, But when Dusty went to Vince in the early 90s, they made a joke out of him. It's just, wrestling is different for that now, and it's a shame. And I hate when people do that. There are a lot of wrestlers I like who aren't in shape. A lot of wrestlers I like who are in shape. And again, in shape, out of shape it's all relative. I would never say Eddie Kingston's out of shape. Eddie Kingston can wrestle forever. But people like to jump on his ass online. You know, mostly WWE stands and all these assholes be like, oh, he's the belly and this and that, blah, blah, blah. He's a better wrestler than your favorite wrestler, so get the fuck over it. But yeah, you know, and you get a lot of these bigger guys too who then get hurt because your body's not meant to be athletic and moving around, you know, 260 pounds of solid, all natural muscle, you know? But, you know, I like a variety in wrestling. I liked what this War Games match brought because you had a little bit of that. You didn't have necessarily the big in shape guy, but like Dustin Rhodes, a bigger guy in shape. Arn was in a kind of shape. The Nasty Boys are sort of blobs. You know, Terry Funk was always in that kind of shape. So, you know, there's some other War Games with the Steiner brothers where they're real cut and like wrestlers and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I have Dusty tattooed on me from when Vince made fun of him, but I love Dusty with all my heart. I love Terry Funk more. The more I watch Dusty stuff, I think he's the only person I love more in the history of professional wrestling is Terry Funk. Dusty is just so good. So that's one of the reasons why I picked this match. We love War Games in this house. All our friends love War Games in this house. And
what do you mean we love War Games in this house?
Me? I'm in this house. I love War Games.
You love War Games.
Yeah, our house guests love War Games.
I love no wrestling.
Okay. Well, that being said, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. I have nothing else. I'll be at AEW on Friday. There's no watch list or anything. Brett is still recovering, so hopefully next week we'll be doing this, me and him. But if not, we'll see what else comes out of it.
Oh boy. Brett, please come back.
I had a blast doing this show. I'm sure everyone's going to fucking love listening to it. So thank you for being here. I adore you. I love you. And this was a ton of fun. Thank you for humoring me and watching almost 3 hours of wrestling to talk about wrestling for an hour and a half, which is longer than I thought I'd get you to talk about. I think you're hilarious. I love when you talk wrestling, even though you hate it. Thank you for setting me up for Dusty Rhodes jokes whenever possible, so I can scream "Bye, Fickle." I really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure everyone's gonna love it. If you still had social media, they would probably blow it up and tell you how good it was and how much fun this was. But they can.
Well, I have Instagram where you could.
Right, and they could blow up the show's account with the praise, and I'll show it to her at We Need Wrestling on Twitter and Instagram. WeNeedWrestling.com. We Need Wrestling at gmail.com. We're a proud member of the Soon to Be Named Network at STBN Network on Twitter, soon to be named network.com, soon to be named network.tumblr.com. A plethora of shows there. Lots of wrestling, Final Wrestling Place. This show here, At Odds with Wrestling. Check all those shows out. If you like comic books, we got Longbox Heroes After Dark, the anchor point of the Soon to Be Named Network with the godfather of the Soon to Be Named Network, Joe Sposto. Hit my music with DeWiki, the Sneaker Dean, our other podcast, Spreadsheet Guru, Profane Argument, Puzzle Warriors 3. I mentioned Pod Van Dam. Listen to those guys at TNM shows. Listen to everybody. They're all good people. Longbox Heroes After Dark. All that. Our other show, Wings on Wings, at @_Wings on Wings on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back eventually. That show is it's four of us watching Wings, the TV show, and eating wings while we discuss the episode we just watched. It has to be all four of us in a room, or at least three of us in a room.
Or at least three of us.
And it's been very difficult. Lots of shit has come up over the last bunch of weeks. So we have plans in the next 2 weeks or so to record some new episodes and get it out there. It's not done. It's just on a very short, shit got in the way, life comes at you fast hiatus.
It's very difficult to film or to record any sort of like eating related show when we have COVID.
Yeah, so that all stopped at COVID and amongst other things. But we will be back soon with that. We'll be back next week with this. Reach out to all of us. Reach out to me at the Dooge, TheDooge. I will send any and all messages to Michelle, any and all will wishes to Brett. We will take care of all of that. I really, really appreciate you all listening. I had such a fucking fun time doing this episode, so I hope that comes across when you all listen to it. And again, thank you so much, Michelle. We'll be back next week. Say goodbye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.
Knock it off, nerds.